Number 4.
I'm German Ortega from the 805 chapter at California State University, Los Angeles, and I have a question for you, brothers. What techniques do you guys recommend that have been successful for the Diamondbacks for commanders to use and implement into their chapters, which can help bring member morale back to a high standard after accomplishing tough times?
Well, we've definitely been through tough times as well, whether it was the economy or the way we're playing, and it really comes down to your style of leadership. I can tell you personally, I like to motivate. I like to encourage people to take chances. It's okay to make mistakes, but learn from those mistakes. I think it's very important to praise those who have done well. So don't just focus on the negatives. The negatives are obvious. Focus on the positives and build upon those, but encourage people, motivate people, reward people, recognize people. Again, that's part of our culture. So we are constantly recognizing and rewarding our employees. I always say that, and it may come in your case as well one day when you're working, that the customer does not come first. And people are amazed by that, and they scratch their head. I say the employee comes first. And in your case, your brothers come first. Because if we can recognize, reward, develop our employees, they in turn are going to treat our customers the way that we expect them to. So it's really rewarding and encouraging everyone around you. Knowing everybody's name, having respect for everyone, treating everybody on the same level, that is so important, and doing it as a team and as a family. And you can get through any tough time.
A little cliche I'm good with cliches, as you're probably already detecting. I think things become cliche because they're important. And one of the little cliches about customers is the customer isn't always right, but he's always the customer. You need to remember that when you're in business.
And by the way, anyone can ask a question. You don't have to be a Sigma Nu in this particular situation. So spouses, kids, anyone that's got a question. Microphone number 5.
David Lavasser, Phi Chapter, LSU. With professional sports, obviously there's a multitude of personalities, some more difficult than others. So as a commander of a chapter of larger size, I kind of see that. So I was wondering if you could give us some advice how to maybe handle those personalities that aren't necessarily the easiest.
That's a great question. In fact, I'll digress into a conversation I had just a few days ago. One of my brothers from days on campus was not a very popular guy in our house, and I took it upon myself to reach out to him and to befriend him and to work with him, even though I knew he was a prickly personality, a difficult guy to deal with. And I talked to him just a couple of days ago. He lives here in Tennessee now. He actually turned out to be very significant in my life, in that because of him, I met my wife in days after college here in a business venture that I got into with him that started over in Knoxville, Tennessee. But I would say that you need, this is probably, many of you here are commander, and it's probably your most significant opportunity at leadership that you've had. And so you have to recognize that being a leader means, that you have to accommodate the entire organization of which you are the leader. And that means dealing with different personalities. You can't treat everybody the same. You have to treat everybody with respect. You have to try to understand what motivates them, how they think. I probably would suggest or would suspect that many of you have been involved in already as leaders in dispute resolution within your chapters. That's one of the responsibilities of the commander. We had occasions in my life as commander where there were disagreements, and you would bring people together, and do it out of the eye of a larger group, and try to really reach out to let each person who disagreed with the other guy have an opportunity to really speak out and give his views, and try to meet. Henry Kissinger, was a great role model for all of us in terms of dispute resolution, and he had enormous skills at bringing together disparate parties with different differing views. And so I think part of leadership is learning how to do that. It's not something you can just automatically do. You have to just work at it. And you have to be respectful of every single person that is in your care when you are a leader.
And you're going to know these individuals so well. You know the ones with the big personalities, but you also know that there's something that motivates each and every one of those brothers or coworkers. And I think you also need to be able to build consensus, especially as a commander. You have to be careful not to build factions, but consensus building is very important. You asked about the big personalities in sports. When I was with the Dodgers, we had tremendous egos in that clubhouse, and it was difficult for me to deal with some of them. And I knew that I would have to go to others on the team to do some of my dirty work with their teammates. And I also had those go-to guys that I could always go to if I needed them. We're in a much different market here. I would say you have a lot of those personality problems in large markets where you have high payrolls and guys that are making a lot of money salary-wise. We're not necessarily that kind of market, so we're fortunate that we have really good guys in our clubhouse, and I haven't had to deal with a lot of that, haven't had to deal with a lot of the egos, but I certainly have in the past. And you have to know who your friends are, who your allies are right away, and then you need to make those that you think are somewhat descending allies as well. And you do that through getting to know them, knowing what's important to them, knowing what motivates them, and using their strengths, be it few, to your advantage.
Microphone number 8.
My name is Clayton Edzer from the University of North Georgia Kappa chapter, and I'm currently running a startup technology company myself, and one of the things that I've noticed as my personal and organizational downfalls is the ability to give critical insight to your best friend. How do you maintain to give critical insight to your friends so that they're no longer, the friendship's not blinding you and you're able to progress through situations?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's probably one of the most difficult things we do in business. And, I can tell you my leadership team is comprised of people that have become my best friends. And you have to be honest in order to grow and develop as an organization. And your friends will appreciate your honesty as well, and the criticism, because for them to develop and grow individually, professionally, and for your organization to grow as well, you need to be critically honest. And they will appreciate that because they're looking to develop as well. And there's always a way to do it. You don't want to do it in just a very negative manner. Again, it's a way of making it sound positive. Here's more of what I need from you. Here's some of the mistakes we made together, even though they're the mistakes that he made or she made. Say, these are the mistakes that we've all made. We need to do better. There's ways of being critical in a very positive way. Again, I find motivation to be the most important skill and trait as a leader, communication and motivation. And when you're criticizing someone or you're trying to give them advice on how to improve, you can still be critical in a very motivating way. It's, I know, you have it in you to be the best you can. I know that you can actually do this. And you're actually criticizing them. They get it, but they're motivated to now change and do better and improve.
Microphone number 6.
Aiden Wrench, Game of Tau, 1469, University of Minnesota. First of all, thanks for coming out here, taking time out of your busy schedule. Brother Hall, you said something really profound earlier. You said that in baseball, there really is no off season. You guys are always working. And I found that analogous to the fraternity. We don't really have time off either. We're always recruiting. We're always trying to get the next award. And how do you keep all of your employees in such a large organization motivated and not become complacent?
Yeah, great question. And it's not, by the way, I really didn't like leaving Minnesota. It was beautiful there. And we had a concert to start the All-Star game at the new football stadium. Great campus, loved it. So congrats to you and going to school in such a beautiful environment. It's, again, you bring up the word motivating. We have to continue to motivate our employees, and there's certain ways that we do that. And it goes back to communication. I can't tell you how many times, nowadays everything's so digital, but I can't tell you how many times I have to send out just a pick-me-up kind of email. We have 250 employees full-time. It's a very large corporation. When you look at our part-time staff and you look outside worldwide at all of our scouts internationally, we got about 2,000 employees. And so we need to make sure they're all on the same page. They have the same beliefs as us, and yet we have to motivate them and keep them positive. And they're the biggest fans. We're all fans of this team. So you can imagine when you're 16 games below 500 in a year where the expectations were high that you were going to go to the postseason, people can be a little bit down. So it's pick-me-up emails from me. It's monthly employee meetings where we call it On the Couch with D. Hall, and it's much like this. I have a chair, we have a couch, I'm up on stage, big logo in the background, and I do basically a late night talk show for my employee meetings, and it's a lot of fun. And again, making it feel like family. My monologue is what I want to share with everybody. Our first guest is our new Employee of the Month and member of the President's Council, which is something that Ken created. We bring up a featured guest. It could be the commissioner, the governor, the mayor. We've had all of those. It could be a player, it could be a coach, and then we used to have a musical act where each department would have their name drawn out of a hat for the next month, but they had to come up with their own original song and choreography about their department and about the organization. It's pretty incredible. Well, they were so over the top and they were working on it so much, I was afraid they weren't doing their job. So we stopped that. Now we're doing game shows, and then lunch is served afterwards, but there's ways to motivate. We have quarterly employee outings. Those are mandatory, whether they all have to go together and go play golf and you're in a foursome with 3 other people you usually don't work with, whether we're going bowling, whether it's softball out on the field, whether it's a community event. There are ways to motivate. Very long season. If we sweep a team, we draw a name out of the hat for maid service for the month, so sweep their house. When we shut out a team, 0, we have donuts. There's just things that we do. Bagel Wednesday. My God, if we ever took bagels away from Bagel Wednesday, there would be anarchy because they love their free bagels on Wednesday mornings. But the beauty of it and the reason for it is that you have to go to a different department each Wednesday to go get it. Maybe down in engineering, maybe up in the break room, maybe in the leadership lounge. And so it's getting people together. And it's not just drinking the Kool-Aid. They really love to come to work every day. It's a great place to go to work. And I get reminded too, because I'll be down in the dumps in the way we're playing, and I'll have employees come up and say, gosh, don't worry about it. We're going to win next year. And by the way, we just love working here. We're so lucky to work here. So I appreciate that question, and it is tough to motivate, but it really comes through communication, through positive, uplifting messages, and those pick-me-ups all the time, and patting people on the back, saying, I see how hard you're working. Thank you. I know it's a grind. Keep it up. You have to do that as much as you can, too.
Thanks.
I think a phrase is, in any enterprise, you want to try to create a sense of family about it. And all the things that a family, if you look at your own family, the things that you've done through your life and the fun things that you've done in a family, everybody has a responsibility, the mom, the dad, the kids, etc. But in a business, we all have responsibilities, but we also have that common bond that we're a part of this enterprise, the brand, the company, in this case, the sports team. And so creating a sense of family about it all and doing things that don't take away from the job at hand to succeed, be it succeed at the box office financially or succeed on the field, but to create an atmosphere of having fun while you're doing it is really, really important.
Number 4.
Justice Bell, Beta Omicron Chapter, Sewanee, the University of the South. First of all, my dad is probably the biggest Diamondbacks fan I know, so real quick, hold on. Hold on. There you are. All right.
Feedback selfie. I like it.
Yeah, I'm just going to one-up Dad real quick. Okay. Thank you. Like the previous speaker said, thank you for taking the time to come see us and share with us. You've shared your paths, if you will, that put you on stage with our good brother Regent. You mentioned some setbacks. You've mentioned some shortfalls, some moments where you didn't give up. Now, that's a difference because a lot of people would have given up and they wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting right now. So you obviously had whatever that is that kept you going. What is that? What kept you going?
That's a great. That's also a great question. Is the I guess fear of failure. Not wanting to be branded as a failure. Doing whatever you have to do to avoid ultimately throwing in the towel and acknowledging defeat. And I think that that's a kind of an inner instinct that we all have in everything that we do in life. No one wants to fail. And so just, knowing that whatever I have to do to ultimately, bring, success out of the jaws of defeat is what I'm going to do. And that inner instinct is, I think it's present, in almost all human beings, and there are those who are willing to give more to avoid failure than others, and those who do are generally those who come out on top.
I would agree, and I think it goes back to, again, competitiveness. It's who we are. As a competitor, I never want to lose. I never want to lose. I never want to give up. And you have to remind yourself of that. And I also feel a tremendous responsibility for all of my staff and all of our employees who work so hard. And I don't want them to give up. I want us to win. I want us to be the best. We're a model organization for that reason, because we are all in it together. And I think if you burden the responsibility of others, like I do my family, my kids, I know I can't give up because I have to provide. And I just got that desire to keep going and keep winning and keep being pioneering and coming up with new ideas that the rest of the league will use, as they do. I mean, they borrow from our playbook all the time. That's great. They come and pluck all of our employees all the time. That's great. But that comes from that inner drive, that competitiveness to build the greatest workplace possible in sports and create that great culture. But it comes from deep down inside. You just do not want to lose. It is the fear of failure. And you want to win. You want to be a model.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the final question. I'm sorry, guys, we're running out of time. And the final question is team rules. I'm just curious, when your players come off the field, do they drink a cold beer? I mean, what's it like in the locker room, and what are the rules, and are there prices for a bad choice?
Absolutely. Great question, Brother Regent. I look back at my time with a different team, and the rules weren't the same. They didn't apply the same. We've created rules here that we're very proud of. We don't have any alcohol in the locker room whatsoever. So when they come out of a game, the worst thing that we can do is send them home in their cars as professional athletes after having some drinks. Obviously, we don't allow drugs of any kind. We'll have alcohol, for example, on our plane, on our charter, when we're going away from Chase Field, but never on the return flight where they're going to get back in their cars. And it's social more than anything, and it's never out of control because they know what the expectations are from us. And same with our employees. And fortunately, we haven't had too many incidents. We have had a few employees that have made bad choices, and as a result, they're gone. You have to make it a precedent as much as it hurt. I mean, one of them was once our mascot, which is a very high-profile position, and he did some things out of the costume that he shouldn't have, and he was very good. And as a result, he lost his job. And it's a wake-up call to the rest of the employees as well. Whoa, there are consequences for what you do, and you have to use people as examples, unfortunately, but you hope you don't encounter those a lot.
We're in a unionized business, and my whole life prior to baseball, I was in businesses that didn't have unions. Union is very powerful, and there was a time when, frankly, there was a significant issue with drugs in our sport, and the union was very protective, they dealt with individual rights should outweigh, the situation, that we were trying to fight over, performance-enhancing drugs. And I'll always remember one of my early battles was over a player who was involved in the drug, in the steroid business. And it was one of my darkest, and I think in the end, one of my prouder moments, in leadership, in dealing with it in this situation. This particular player was arrested on a game day and was caught, as with drugs that he was supposedly a distributor of. And we didn't know that it had happened. He came to the ballpark, he put his uniform on, he went out into the bullpen, and the media learned about this event, and we learned about it just shortly thereafter and sent word down, this, under no circumstances should this guy participate in the game. And as soon as the game ended, we brought him in, and you're no longer a Diamondback. You're out of here. Get your stuff, get out of here. His union, and I took the position of saying, we're not going to pay this guy. Well, our guys all have guaranteed contracts. And their position as a union was, you have to honor this contract. And my position was, no, wait a minute, let me see. Now, this is a guy that was caught robbing the bank, and you want him to get to keep the money. And they said, well, the contract says that he should be paid. And I said, well, I'm not going to pay him. What are you going to do about it? Well, we're going to file a grievance. got into a grievance hearing, and ultimately I said, look, this is not about the money. It's about somebody getting money having done wrong. And I'm never going to, under any circumstances, unless compelled to by a court, I'm never going to reward a wrongdoer. And to prove that it's not about the money, you pick a charity and I'll give all that money to charity. And ultimately that's what they did. And this guy didn't get paid, and the charity was rewarded with the money. But it's... I guess, you know, in the end, it's always about, and maybe this is an example of, you know, what all of us as leaders need to do. In the end, always do the right thing. And instinctively, we know what the right thing is.
Yeah. And
Let's give these gentlemen a hand.